How's everybody this morning? I'm Keith Pegues, Dean of the School of Business here at North Carolina Central University. And thank you all for coming out this morning. We are very excited for this next installment of the Dean's Global Speaker Series. And for those of you who may not know, we have a topical series that we think will last for a couple of years. This is the first year in this topical approach. And the approach that we're using is the business of ... We began with a kickoff last month with the business of diversity. And we had an outstanding group of speakers and great dialogue around diversity. Our next event will be the beginning of November, and it will be the business of sports. And so we'll have a number of people from various aspects of sports who are not athletes, right, to give you an opportunity to see what opportunities there are in the world of sports that people might not think about from a business perspective. And today we are extremely excited to focus on one of the most exciting topics in this topical series, the business of entrepreneurship. And given where we are here in one of the fastest growing centers for entrepreneurship here in Durham and the Raleigh or the RTP area, we couldn't have a better topic for today. So what I'll do at this point is turn this over to one of our outstanding students who will come and introduce our speaker for today. So Rashid Brown.
Dr. Randal Pinkett has established himself as an entrepreneur, speaker, author, and scholar, and as a leading voice for his generation in business and technology. He's the founder, chairman, and CEO of his fifth venture, BCT Partners, a multi-million-dollar management consulting and information technology solutions firm, which is located in Newark, New Jersey. Dr. Pinkett has received numerous awards for business and technology excellence and has been featured on national televised programs such as The Today Show, Live with Regis and Kelly, Nightline, and Larry King Live. In 2009, he was named to New Jersey Governor John Curzon's official shortlist as a potential running mate for Lieutenant Governor for New Jersey. Dr. Pinkett is the author of several books that may be of interest to several business students that are here today, such as Campus CEO, The Student Entrepreneur's Guide to Launching a Multi-Million-Dollar Business, No Money Down, CEO, How to Start Your Dream Business with little or no cash. And he was also a co-author of Black Faces in White Places, 10 Game-Changing Strategies to Achieve Success and Find Greatness, which was named one of the top best books in 2010. He holds 5 degrees, including a bachelor's in electrical engineering from Rutgers University, where he competed as a high jumper, long jumper, and captain of the men's track and field team, a master's in computer science from the University of Oxford in England, a master's in electrical engineering, MBA, and PhD from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Most notably, he was the first and only African American to receive a prestigious Rhodes Scholarship at Rutgers University and was the winner, as it was advertised around the School of Business, the winner of NBC's hit reality television show, The Apprentice with Donald Trump. Born in Philly and raised in New Jersey, Dr. Pinkett is a proud member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated and attends First Baptist Church in Somerset, New Jersey, where he resides. He's happily married to his wife, Sahara, and they both are proud parents of their daughter and 2 sons. Dr. Pinkett firmly believes that for those whom much is given, much is expected. So throughout his endeavors, he places great emphasis on his desire to give back to the community. And as 2 years ago, I saw him speak at Thurgood Marshall College for a conference. He brought a lot of intensity, and I have the honor to introduce you today. And hopefully you bring that same intensity as you brought there. So thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. Come on now, North Carolina Central University. Good morning. Good morning. All right, well, let me begin by saying God is good. Yes. And let me say that I typically don't fly into cities the same day that I'm scheduled to appear because you run the risk of the flight being delayed or canceled and you don't arrive and folks get upset and this goes on. But I had a family function yesterday evening that I didn't want to miss, so I got up this morning at 5 a.m. To leave my house at 6 a.m. to catch an 8 a.m. flight or so, and I'm just glad, no, I'm not glad, I'm excited to be here at North Carolina Central University. I'm going to get into my remarks, and the list goes on. But my wife is a graduate of North Carolina A&T State University. Oh. She's nagging. Don't hold that against me. Hold on a second. Don't hold it against me. But I say all that to say that it's a friendly rivalry, right? And it's not. I'm trying to gloss over it. I say that to say that I have a deep respect and a deep appreciation as we, my wife and I travel and move and shake and meet people from NCCU and from A&T, and the list goes on, of this institution and what it means to this community, what it means to our people, and what the business school means to preparing the next generation of business leaders for our community and for our people. So I want to thank the individuals who were instrumental in me being here at NCCU. It's my first time on campus, and I'm excited to be here. Among them, first and foremost, your dean, your relatively new dean, Keith Pinkett, my fraternity brother, Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. I want to just ask you to join me in giving him a round of applause for his leadership of the business school. His vision for these young people. In addition to that, to Rashid Brown, who did a wonderful introduction in representing the business school a moment ago, who I did meet at the Thurgood Marshall College Fund, I think it was New York, where we met at NCCU, and it's funny how the world works. We met in New York, and now we're back together here on the campus of NCCU. And to everyone who's worked both behind the scene and in front of the scene and around the scene, part of the reason why I'm here, this evening I'll be speaking to the North Carolina Institute of Minority Economic Development. And originally I was scheduled to be here this evening, and then there was the idea, I believe, of Brother Farad Ali to see if we could also coordinate me coming over to NCCU. And so both Farad and Steve, who greeted me at the airport, who's also my fraternity brother, I wanted to say thank you to these two men for being wonderful hosts and for also making this connection with NCCU as I arrived here. So give them a round of applause as well. I'm terrible with names, but please remind me your name.
Dee Haviland.
Dee Haviland, who has crossed every T and dotted every I, because we have some things going on later today that she made sure were in place impeccably. So I want to thank you for all you've done to coordinate and make sure this was a success. And so I want to speak to you about the business of entrepreneurship, and I want to take a particular angle on this topic. And so the theme for my remarks, under the umbrella of the business of entrepreneurship, is something that the dean and I talked about a moment ago, which is think like an entrepreneur. Think like an entrepreneur. That's the theme that I want to speak to today. And okay, the last bit of housekeeping. So what happened to the ankle? All right. Company cookout, basketball tournament, old school versus new school. You know where it's going, right? Which team was I on? Old school. Which team lost? Old school. And who went baseline around a young cat who I left in the dust? Another young cat comes from the weak side to foul me and stop me from making the shot. Got a good foul, knocked me off my balance, landed on his foot. I've been told for years that I look like Kevin Garnett from the Boston Celtics. For years. And so that day I tried to beat Kevin Garnett and it didn't work out. So I'm 6 weeks in crutches. Today marks week 3. I got 3 more weeks and I'll be back on my feet. So pray for me for a speedy recovery. And don't tell my wife I said this, but I'm going to be back on that court. I'm getting redemption. All right, now back to the matter at hand. Think like an entrepreneur. So let me just begin by saying this, and I'm stating the obvious. These are some challenging times that we live in. Difficult economic times. The job market has become significantly tighter and significantly more competitive. And no matter what you call it, layoffs, workforce reductions, downsizing, restructuring, reorganizations, my favorite, right-sizing. No matter what you call it, the marketplace is not as plentiful today as it was just a few years ago. We have witnessed the downfall of several multinational, long-standing corporations that we never would have dreamed would have fallen to the wayside. Enron, AIG, Lehman Brothers, Circuit City, General Motors filing bankruptcy. Of course, they're back. Even my former employer, Trump Entertainment Resorts, filed bankruptcy just a few years ago, which only validated my decision to leave Trump Entertainment Resorts and go back to my company at the end of my year as the apprentice. But the sum total of these trends that we are all witnessing, that we are all experiencing, is that primary among those implications is that the once implicit contract between employers and employees, the once tacit assumption that you could work for a company your entire career, retire, get a gold watch, and fade off into the sunset, that contract has been broken. And arguably, I'm going to say a lot of things today that I don't like to say, but I believe. And one of them is that I believe that we will never go back to the days where you could expect or rely on a company to take good care of you, even if you do a good job and show loyalty and have dedication to that organization. I believe that sadly, I say sadly, I believe those days are gone. And this is not a temporary shift, but rather, this is not a temporary change, but a fundamental shift in how our economy and how our job market functions. We're in the midst of a new era with new challenges, but also with new opportunities. And I believe that this new era requires a new way of thinking, and that way of thinking is to think like an entrepreneur. That you must take control of your career. You must dare to be in the driver's seat. You must be the one who defines your destiny. Because if you can survive in this tough economy, you can thrive in any economy. Now, what is the entrepreneur's mindset? I believe it is represented by 5 core characteristics, all of which are, I believe, essential to being competitive in the 21st century. First, creativity, an inventive or clever approach to whatever you do. Second, resourcefulness, knowing how to make something out of nothing, or to put that into hip-hop vernacular, knowing how to make $1 out of 15 cents stay legit and still pay your rent. Third, courage, the belief that you can achieve whatever your mind can conceive. Fourth, resilience, the ability to overcome any challenge. And then fifth and finally, passion, boundless enthusiasm for whatever you do. I believe, stated simply, when you think along these lines, creativity, resourcefulness, courage, resilience, passion, then you can do more than just survive under any circumstance. You can thrive because you embody the mindset of an entrepreneur. And if you listen to these characteristics specifically, I'm going to speak to the students. In fact, by a show of hands, where are the students here at NCCU? Okay. And okay, very good. If you listen to these characteristics, I believe that these are characteristics that you as students very naturally embody. Think about it. I'm going to ask you a question. As students, are you naturally creative? That was a question. I'm going to try that again. I'm going to say it exactly the same way I said a moment ago. As students, are you naturally creative? Yes. Yes! Absolutely! Think about it. You as students, you can do things that folk of my generation can't do. I witness young people today and what you all are able to do with technology. For example, you're able to watch television, browse the internet, tweet, post to Facebook, take a picture, download music, do your homework, finish dinner, all at the same time. She shook her head. All at the same time. If that's not creativity, I don't know what it is. There's no question in my mind that you bring a level of creativity, of energy, of inventiveness to everything that you do, naturally. I'm going to try this again. As students, stick with me here. Are you naturally resourceful? Yes. You better recognize you don't have a choice. Somebody out there is making it through this semester on nothing but ramen noodles. Shake your head. Come on now, keep it real with me. Somebody out there made it through last semester on turkey and cheese sandwiches, no turkey and no cheese. Somebody out there is driving a hoopty with no air conditioning no heat, no radio, no hubcaps. But you're making it, and somebody out there, stick with me here, somebody out there went to an event on campus, not because of the event, but because it had free food. Are you with me? Are you with me? That's resourcefulness. If that's not being resourceful, I don't know what is. And as students, my last question, are you naturally courageous and resilient?
Yes.
That was a question. I'm going to try it again. As students, are you naturally courageous and resilient?
Yes.
Thank you, brother. Nice bow tie, though. Very sharp. It's all good. You know what? When you think about courage and resilience, students for the past 2 decades have literally led the charge, set the example, and set the standard for entrepreneurship. Most of you know, presumably, that Bill Gates started the seeds of Microsoft as a student at Harvard. Most of you perhaps know that Michael Dell, the seeds of Dell on the campus of the University of Texas. And I'm sure you know Google, founded by students. Facebook, founded by students. We don't know exactly who. If you saw the movie, but you know it was students. The list goes on. Yahoo, founded by students. What was once known as Kinko's. Who's old enough to remember Kinko's? All right. Even the students, y'all should be old enough to know Kinko's. Now FedEx Office. That's right. Founded by students. Pizza Hut, founded by students. Subway, founded by students. Nike, founded by a student, athlete, and his coach at the University of Oregon. And where is Nike headquartered? Oregon. Where's my sister who also wants to go into the NBA program? There she is. We just had that conversation. The list continues. Strong Diddy Combs, seeds of Bad Boy Records, Howard University. Russell Simmons, seeds of Def Jam Records, City University of New York. And do you see the pattern? I mean, we're talking about students. Pizza, sandwiches, photocopying, technology, sneakers. You know, it's no accident, right? It's no accident. And how many of you knew that Federal Express was founded by a student? Who knew that? The dean knew it. The gentleman knew it. Overnight Mail. Fred Smith wrote a paper in his class, and the professor gave him a C. A C! Said it will never happen. Overnight Mail? Come on. You joking? Can't get anything anywhere overnight. C! And so if that professor knew then what we know now, that professor would have said, I'll see you at the bank. And could have made some money off the deal too. But Fred Smith did what students do, what you do, which is you don't let the world tell you what's not possible. You go out and show the world what is possible. You set the standard. You define your destiny. You take control of your career. And these numbers are no accident. 2/3 of students today say they intend to become entrepreneurs at some point in their careers. 2/3. 90% of teachers report that they have their students reporting that they want to be entrepreneurs. In 1970, 16 schools taught entrepreneurship. Today, it's well over 800 schools that teach entrepreneurship. It is a literal movement that we have witnessed over the past 2 decades of student entrepreneurship being ushered in across this country and across our globe. So you naturally embody the entrepreneur's mindset. You are ballers and shot callers. You are all that, a bag of chips, and some Kool-Aid, and some sweet tea. You are academic instigators. You are entrepreneurship initiators. You are class project coordinators, but you are not in your own vernacular. You are not player haters. You're not move fakers. You're not value forsakers. And you are not troublemakers, but rather you are market and trend originators. You are revenue and profit generators. You are technology innovators, opportunity takers, peer rejuvenators, campus activators, dean's list makers, anti-procrastinators, accomplishment celebrators, butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers. You make it do what it do. That's what I'm talking about. You make it do what it do. You didn't know the apprentice could rap. But if you don't know, now you know. And so, hear me out. Here's my point. entrepreneurship is not just something you do, it's a way that you think. It's not just something you do, it's a way that you think. And it is not confined, per our conversation, to business. It's not confined to launching a venture. You can be entrepreneurial in a school, in a nonprofit, in a church, in a hospital. I'll give you an example. I remember when my daughter was born. My wife and I went to the hospital for a course on being a parent. She was our first child. And we went to the receptionist's desk and we asked her, where is the course being taught for new parents? Her response was, I don't know, but people have been asking me that question all evening. It's a real story. Silent. The entrepreneur in her, once the question was asked once, would have gone and found the answer. Figured out exactly what that course was, come back to the desk, and be prepared to give each person thereafter the answer. Or at least ask the third, fourth person, not the second. My point being, entrepreneurship is how you bring value to the world, how you innovate in the world, how you transform the world. And yes, it manifests itself in launching a venture, but it also manifests itself in finding a cure to cancer. It manifests itself in transforming a business school. It manifests itself in adding value to the bottom line of a corporation. It manifests itself in many, many ways. And so I want to describe to you, how can you be entrepreneurial? How can you think like an entrepreneur per the business of entrepreneurship, no matter what you do? I'm going to break this audience down into what I call the 3 E's. Each of you fall into one of the following 3 categories. Either you are the first E, you are an employee. You work for someone else. Or you hope to work for somebody else. Those of you who look to work for corporations, perhaps, which is all good. I'm not here to say everybody here is called to be an entrepreneur. First E, employees. Second E, what I call new entrants. Meaning you're not working, you're not the third E of being an entrepreneur, but you are preparing to enter the job market. You're a student, you've been let go, you've been laid off, etc. That's the second E, new entrants who want to re-enter the job market. The third E, you know, entrepreneur. And so let me begin with the employees. How many of you here today work for an organization, a corporation, etc.? Please raise your hand so I can see you. Okay, so you're in the first category, the first E's. Now, how do you think like an entrepreneur as an employee? You do what Earl Graves, founder of Black Enterprise, says. Your career is your own private business. I see a couple of phones out. You can tweet me at Randal Pinkett. That's Randal with 1 L. Keep tweeting. I see people tweeting. Keep tweeting. If I say something good, tweet it twice. And I'll retweet it. And I'll make 3. Earl Graves says, your career is your own private business. In other words, for you to apply the entrepreneur's mindset as an employee, you must first think of your career like an entrepreneur thinks about their business. That means, how do you position yourself in the marketplace? How do you maintain a level of competitiveness against others? How do you keep your skills and abilities up to date for the 21st century? That is exactly what we look for people who want to join my firm, BCT. People who are bringing something to the table that is competitive as we look at other prospective candidates to join our company. But second, it means the following. Let me break this down. The second thing it means is that, and again, I'm going to say something I don't like, but I'm going to say it anyway. It means that nowadays, given all that I said about the economy, that you can no longer just look for a job that leads to an income. You can no longer just accept a job that leads to income, or a salary, we'll say. A job that leads to a salary. But rather, you must look at sources of income that lead to multiple revenue streams. Sources of income that lead to multiple revenue streams. Because if you put all of your eggs into the basket of a salary, and the basket goes, what happens to the eggs? The eggs go. And students, I hope you're hearing me, especially those of you who don't envision yourselves being business owners. You still have to think like an entrepreneur. And that means doing what businesses do. The first thing you do, which we do, is take inventory of your capabilities. That is taking inventory of what I call your capable abilities. Much like businesses inventory their core competencies, their core capacities, you do the same. Meaning, if you had an internship or a job, your job responsibilities don't fully describe your capabilities. That what you develop from a job, the skills you develop, are far beyond just what the job calls for. That you may be responsible for marketing and sales, but you may have also developed the skills of developing a marketing plan, a strategic plan, developing a budget, managing large groups of people. Those are all capabilities that deliver value in other contexts than just marketing and sales. So your inventory must be guided by your passion and your gifts. Your passion being those things that you naturally are drawn to do. And your gifts, those things you're naturally able to do. That, to be more practical, I have yet to go to a church that has a choir that doesn't have at least one person who is passionate about singing, but not gifted in singing. And that person always gets the solo. And if you're out there thinking, not my church, then I must be talking about you. The point is, when you find that intersection between your passion and your gifts, the things you naturally do and the things that you're naturally able to do, that I believe is the beginning of taking that inventory. So what's my passion? Entrepreneurship. I sold candy as a kid, sold lemonade as a kid. I was naturally drawn to entrepreneurship. I even tried to sell my toys to other kids in my neighborhood. They were all broke. So I didn't sell any toys. But I kept trying. And then my mother found out. She said, well, you can't sell the toys. I bought the toys. If you're going to sell them, at least give me a cut. I told her no. So she shut me down. That was my toy operation. The first thing you do is take that inventory. Second thing you do, bear with me, is you think about the channels to market your capabilities. Now, one channel to market your capabilities is the job market. You have a resume, which summarizes your experience. You push it out to Monster or LinkedIn or wherever, and you hope employers take notice. That's one way of marketing your skills through a channel of the job market. There are other channels, because there's other forms of work. There's part-time work, freelance work, consulting work, fee-for-service work. And so if you think about the other channels, like social networks, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, think about talent marketplaces where you go online and say to the world, here's what I do well. Elance, Guru, Craigslist. If you don't know it, you better get on. You go to Elance or Craigslist or Guru and say, hey, I edit papers. I develop websites. I'm a plumber. And the world comes back and says to you, I'm looking for a plumber. I'm looking for a website. I'm looking for somebody to edit my paper, and I'm willing to pay for it. Those are other channels to market your skills. If you have a product, then it's eBay. Then it's Big Choice. It's all these sites that allow you to offer products to the world on barter or on online, and the list goes on. And the fact of the matter is, at the end of the day, step 3 is about closing the deal. Meaning you think about what is going to be the cost for my services or my product against my competition that I can close deals. And that's a radically different way of thinking about managing one's career. And I'll give you a very practical example to bring home, and I'm going to move on. I have a colleague of mine, a classmate of mine from college, who by day is a project manager at a bank. Trained as an engineer, got certified as a project manager. His day job is like any other day job as a project manager. In the evenings, on the weekends, he designs and manufactures suits. He designed this suit. It's not bad, right? It's not bad. If he's to lose his job as a project manager, what will he do? Make suits. I have a neighbor who's an office manager at a hospital. In the evening, on the weekends, he does physical training at the gym. Help people get healthy, etc. He lost his job at the hospital. What's he doing full-time now? Physical training. Third example, I got a friend of mine who worked as an event planner for a large corporation. She got laid off. What's she doing now full time? Event planner on her own. Point being, we no longer have the luxury of necessarily putting all of our eggs in one basket. So the basket goes, the eggs go. The last thing I'll say on this point, and I'll move on to my next E, is that if you do find yourself now or in the future of being laid off, don't see it as being let go. See it as being set free. See it as being set free. Amen. All right. By show of hands, how many of you fall into my second E of new entrants? You're either looking for work or you're in school and looking in the future at getting into work or starting a business. Who's in the second E? New entrants. Come on, all my students have their hands up. Every student's had their hands up. All right. And where's the class 2013? Show your hands. Class, okay, shout out to the class 2013. You represent it. What does it mean to think like an entrepreneur as a new entrant? Here's what it means. Here's what it means. It means that while you're exploring job opportunities, while you're doing all the things you do to look for a job, getting your suit together, getting your interview answer questions ready, tell me more about yourself. Well, I'm a fourth-year student at North Carolina Central. Here I go. I'm talking about Aggie Pride again. North Carolina Central University. I'm studying business. I'm looking to get into marketing. You got your resume together. You got your websites. Your resume is uploaded and ready for folks to respond. While you're doing all of that, right alongside that, it means the following. It means that even if you weren't thinking about it before, I'm here to challenge you. You have got to ask the question, what would it look like if I were to start my own business? You have to ask the question. And in fact, if you're not getting any traction in the job market, you don't have a choice but to ask the question. You don't have a choice. And so what does that mean? It means dispelling just a few myths. Because everybody thinks it's risky to go into business. Don't get me wrong, it is risky. It's very risky, but I got news for you. Working for a company today is risky. It's real risky. Yes, it's risky. I'm saying that I don't like it, but I'm going to say it. That's one myth, that it's risky to be in business. Second myth is that you have to have somebody else's money to get into business. It's the famed story of getting $1 million from a venture capitalist starting in a garage on Monday and by Friday, front page of Forbes magazine. It's a myth. The fact of the matter is, if you look at where startup money is derived for companies, and not just any company, successful companies. So I'm not giving you the failure, I'm giving you, not the failure, but those who have succeeded at business. Ask the question, where'd your money come from? In 80% of the cases, it came from the founders. 80%. That's an astronomical number. That means for that remaining 20% is venture capital, private equity, angels, bank loans, government grants. That's the 20%. 80% from the founders. Now, if you're like me, and you're perhaps a student, and you're like I was when I was a student, and you're broke, because I was broke when I was in school, broke like no joke. In fact, I was so broke, not only was I broke, but nobody in my family had money either. And so I couldn't go to my father, my mother, and my grandfather and say, could you give me a couple $1,000s to get my company off the ground? If my grandfather had given me anything to start my business, he would have been in the office every day, right next to me saying, where's my money? Where's my money? When am I getting it back? What are you doing? No, don't do that, do this. And get me back my money. Granddad, chill. Thought you loved me. I do, but I want my money. So if you're like me, or one day find yourself like I was, being broke, here's your next statistic. How much money did those companies have when they started? So 80% from the founders. How much did they have? In half of the cases, again, high growth companies, in half of the cases, $20,000 or less. In a third of the cases, $10,000 or less. And 1 out of every 10 high growth companies starts with $1,000 or less. I was in the category of or less. Because I started with zero. Nothing. And you ask, how did we do it? 3 of my 4 partners, me included, we worship at the same church, First Baptist Church in New Jersey. We were all doing something else on the side when we convinced the church to give us our first contract, $45,000 contract, to get the church connected to the internet. They were not connected at the time. Put in the cabling, the servers, configured it, got them online. The contract was 45 grand. They gave us 15 grand up front. My firm is BCT Partners. Our revenues in 2000 were $15,000. It's our first big break with the church. Started with nothing. And so that myth of having to have somebody else's money, and a lot of it, I'm trying to paint a picture for you of the business of entrepreneurship. The fact of the matter is, most entrepreneurs start with little, and they figure out how to make something out of nothing. They figure it out. Even if you saw Facebook in the movie, you could see they didn't, now Savrin had money. And if it wasn't for Savrin, they wouldn't have the money to buy the servers to power their growth. The fact is, what got them started was Zuckerberg at a computer writing code. Now, granted, it was supposed to be for somebody else, not for him, as the movie so suggests. But the fact is, it was Zuckerberg in front of a computer writing code. And so the rubber meets the road in having to do more with less, making something out of nothing, being resourceful without being resourceful. Making $1 out of 15 cents, staying legit, paying your rent. So if there's anybody out there who's on the fence saying, I don't know, Dr. Pinkett, if I can go this route of being entrepreneurial, of thinking like an entrepreneur, I will say to you what Nike has been saying for years, just do it. Just do it. And the good news is the following. I'm going to move on to my last E. Is that if you find yourself serendipitously, like you were going for a job and you stumbled into your own business, the good news is the following. It's twofold. First, 7 out of every 10 millionaires in America made their millions from owning a business. Not the lottery, not inheritance, not even the stock market. 7 out of 10 millionaires in America made it from owning a business. Second thing that's good news is that if you end up being a business owner, if you're going to get laid off, at least you will know it's coming. Third and finally, my third E. How many of you in the audience have owned or one day hope to own your own business? By show of hands. All right. Holler at your boy. So here's what I want to say to the business owners, both current and future. In fact, how many of the students here, how many students have owned or currently own a business? I'm curious to know. All right. I love it. I'll tell you what, 10 years ago, no hands. Here at North Carolina Central University, I got it right this time. We got hands in the audience. That's amazing. Because what I want to see the next Black Bill Gates. The next Black Michael Dell, the next Black billionaire that is from NCCU, who comes back to NCCU to give millions to NCCU. Are you with me? We need, we need more Black billionaires. Bob Johnson and Oprah Winfrey are lonely. They need company. Now, I volunteer myself to join them. But I want to see that next generation coming off this campus. All right? So, to the entrepreneurs, I want to say 2 things to you. That's me making that noise, and I'm breathing the mic. I'm like, what's that sound? That's me. I pray, I'm going to talk to the students. I pray that you're not just coming together on this campus, but staying together after you leave this campus. Because the operating metaphor of business success is not the individual, it's the team. I met my business partners in college. We sat at a cafeteria table as undergraduate students and dreamed about one day launching our own business. And here I stand on one foot. Literally, it's getting a little tired. 15 years later, we're still together. The four of us, four black men who had a dream of owning a business and now own a multi-million-dollar consulting firm headquartered in Newark, New Jersey. That's amazing. It's amazing. Apple, Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. Microsoft, Bill Gates and Paul Allen. Google, Sergey Brin and Larry Page. Yahoo, David Filo and Jerry Yang. Harpo, Oprah's company, is owned by Oprah and a guy named Jeff Jacobs. Most people don't know. And now Tyler Perry's getting in the mix on OWN. The point being that the metaphor is the team, and the team. And so my message to you students in particular, that the relationships you're establishing here have the potential to be very, very powerful, whether you go into business or not. That there is strength in numbers. That I am my brother's keeper. I am my sister's keeper. Two heads are always better than one. There is strength in numbers. United we stand, divided we fall. All for one, one for all. A chain is only as strong as its weakest link. They're all saying the same thing. That if you've got issues, we've all got issues. If you have a problem, we all have that problem. If you're failing, we're all failing. That we are all in this together. That we are not meant to see through each other, but to see each other through. And the spirit of NCCU is that spirit of coming together and staying together. And so, if you read the book Good to Great by Jim Collins, where he compares good companies to great companies, he looks at what he calls the level 4 leader, which is the good leader, versus the level 5, the great leader. The great leader being those who lead companies that outperform the good ones year after year after year. And what he talks about is that the level 4 leader thinks, what and then who? What should we be doing, and then who should be on our team to help us get there? Now, I don't know about you, but that makes sense to me. What should we be doing, and then who do we need to help us get there? That's logical to me. But no, Collins says that the great leader, the level 5 leader, thinks the complete opposite. Thinks who first, and then what? Who should be on my team? Who should be on my bus? Who should be part of my inner circle? And then once they're on the team, we will together figure out what we should do. And the fact of the matter is, look at Oprah as an example. For years, Oprah moved forward with this gift of communication and this passion for helping others, right? And so that she parlayed that into her radio show, which then parlayed to her television show, all while being an employee. And as she's building up her career as an employee, she's realizing that she's starting to build up this little enterprise. And she thinks to herself, there's a lot of things that are happening that I don't like to do. I've got books to keep, I've got money to manage, I've got people I have to manage, I have a back office that needs attention. I don't want to do any of that stuff. It's not my gift, it's not my passion. Who should I get to do it? Now, by show of hands, how many of you have ever heard of Jeff Jacobs? By show of hands. Got 1, 2, 3, 4 hands. 5. So she finds a guy named Jeff Jacobs and puts Jeff on the team. The first thing Jacobs does is come to Oprah. Oprah, I got an idea. She says, what, Jeff? I think you can own your show. Oprah's response, go online. You're crazy. Because you think back then, I'm dating myself. Phil Donahue didn't own his show. Sarah Raphael didn't own her show. Montel Williams didn't own his show. Nobody owned their show. Oprah says to Jacobs, if you can figure out how to do that, I will give you 10% of Harper. I'll give you 10%. It's all yours. So what happens? Jacobs does the deal. Oprah owns the show. Oprah goes from being an employee to an employer of the people on her show. It propels her to her studio, to becoming a magazine owner, becoming a philanthropist, to owning her own network. She's the only person I know who puts herself on the cover of her own magazine and still sells out. That's a bad woman. That's a bad woman. If I did that, like had my own magazine and put myself on the cover every month, I'd sell 1 copy to my mama. And now Jacobs is where I want to be one day, wealthy and anonymous. No one knows who he is. You ever heard of Randal Pinkett? Nah, never heard of him. You ever heard of Jeff Pinkett? Nah, who's he? Paid. Paid. That's who he is. The point is, think about Apple, think about Google, think about Yahoo, think about Facebook, think about Oprah. The team, the team, the team. While the individual might make the headlines, Pinkett, Gates, Jobs, Zuckerberg, Winfrey. There's somebody handling the back office. Somebody operating behind the scenes as part of a team to get it done. And those teams can begin on NCCU's campus, right here, right now. Second thing, I'm going to wrap this up, I'm going to go to Q&A. Second thing I want to say to the entrepreneurs, if there's anything I've learned over my now 19 years in business. I started my first venture in college as an undergraduate selling what is now an old relic called compact discs. If there's anything I've learned, it is to have, one, theme music, and then second, to have a healthy acceptance of failure as the only pathway to success. Now notice I say a healthy acceptance of failure because there is such thing as having an unhealthy acceptance of failure. That's called being a failure. And so there's 3 principles of failure. One, it says nothing about you failing. It's not personal. It doesn't say you're less of a person, that you're bad, that you're not talented. It says nothing about you. Second, failure, you learn more from failure than you do in success. So you welcome failure for the lessons it can teach you. Third, this is a quote, I believe it's Benjamin Franklin. Success is nothing more than going from failure to failure with undiminished enthusiasm. So the mediating factor between failure and success is perseverance. The willingness to work through the challenges, the difficulties, the hurdles, the obstacles, when others are willing to throw in the towel. Some of the most powerful stories of success are riddled with failure. My current firm, BCT Partners, is my 5th venture. What happened to the previous 4? They failed, and they failed miserably. How many of you have heard of WD-40? Who knows WD-40? Who knows the story of WD-40? WD-40, founded in San Diego by 3 people who set out to create the ultimate rust prevention solvent, a degreaser, a lubricant for the aerospace industry. It took them 40 attempts to get the now signature formula right. WD-40 stands for water displacement perfected on the 40th try. And it gets better. It gets better. Who has heard of Formula 409? Got more hands. Yeah, you know where I'm going. Formula 409, guys from Wikipedia. Formula 409. 2 young scientists, set out to create the best cleaner, the best cleansing agent. It was only when they had gotten to the 409th formula they finally got it right. Are you kidding me? Are you joking? 409 attempts. I would have given up on the 2nd attempt. No, I'm sorry, the 100th attempt. No, I'd have thrown the towel on the 200th attempt. No, the 408th attempt, I'd have thrown in the towel. 409 attempts. What's the lesson? Don't let a setback hold you back, because a setback is a setup for a comeback. There is no risk, there is no reward. There is no pain, there is no gain. If there is no disappointment, there is no discipline. If there are no problems, there is no power. If there is no test, there is no testimony. There is no trial, there is no triumph. If there are no obstacles, there are no opportunities. Because sometimes you have to go through in order to grow through, which means there is nothing ventured, there is nothing gained. So if you don't believe, then don't bother. So go hard or go home, because failure is not falling down. Failure is staying down. I'm going to close this out. I'm going to wrap it up. Summary quote. I love this one. It's deep to me. I had to think about it, and I got it. To win without risk is to triumph without glory. To win without risk is to triumph without glory. So in conclusion, I've talked to the 3 E's. And thinking like an entrepreneur, under the auspices of the business of entrepreneurship. That if you are an employee, and you think about sources of income that lead to multiple revenue streams, you inventory your skills and abilities, look at the channels to market that to the world, and then you close the deal. If you're a new entrant, class of 2013, laid off, let go, then you have to ask a question in parallel. What would it look like if I were to start a business? You've got to ask that question. Develop a business plan in parallel developing a resume. And then third, if you are an entrepreneur or you desire to be one, then you think who first and then what? The team, the team, the team, knowing that failure is inevitable, but that's okay. It's all right. Because failure is along the path to success. Don't forget, NCCU students and community, that you define your destiny. You embrace the entrepreneur's mindset. You follow the tradition and tremendous legacy of other entrepreneurs who have come before you, who didn't just survive, but thrive under difficult circumstances too. Never forget, you are the truth. You are the real deal. You are the proof in the pudding and the icing on the cake. You are too legit to quit, too strong to be wrong, too blessed to be stressed, and too anointed to be disappointed. You are the bomb. God bless you. Go out and show them the game for things like God bless you. And thank you for having me in the
Thank you, Dr. Pinkett. What do you think is the ingredient, the single ingredient, that is most important in long-term success for an entrepreneur?
It's a long, hard road. It's a long, hard road. And I see time and time again that folks simply throw in the towel too quickly. And the reason why passion is so important is because that gives you fuel for the fire to overcome the challenges. That if you don't have a passion for what you're doing, it's easy to throw in the towel, right? Because it's nothing you believe in. It's something that you have energy to withstand those challenges. So I think dispelling this myth that when you see a successful entrepreneur that they didn't experience challenges or didn't experience miserable, significant and repetitive failure, we have to really get behind the curtain to see that, just like me and many others, that failure is a part of the process. If you read the book, Why Should White Guys Have All the Fun? This is the autobiography of Randal Lewis, who was the first African American to own and operate a company generating more than $1 billion in revenue. You see clearly in his story, because he wanted to do a leveraged buyout, a takeover of a company. He tried to take over a sewing company. The deal went through. He tried to take over a manufacturing company. The deal went through. He tried to take over an international company. The deal went through. And I'm reading the book, and I'm thinking to myself, how in the world is this dude going to succeed? Because all he does is fail. Failure after failure after failure. And then you get to the end of the book, and he finally does the deal to get the Beatrice Company. Renames it to the TLC Beatrice Company, which stands for the Lewis Company, Reginald Lewis. And to put that into context, when he took over the Beatrice Company, the #1 black-owned business in the country was Johnson Publishing. Ebony, Jet, Ebony Fashion Fair, generating $200 million in revenue a year. When he took over Beatrice and owned the company, his company was now generating $2 billion in revenue, with a B. Which means you had the #1 company on the B100 at $2 billion, the second company at $200 million. His company was doing more revenue than all 99 companies on the list. Ridiculous. But had he given up, he never would have made it.
My question to you is, students usually tend to fluctuate with their dreams and what they want to do during their collegiate career, and I'm sure you probably experienced this whether you were at Rutgers, MIT, and or Oxford. My question to you was, before you actually decided to become that business owner or that entrepreneur, originally what was the dream that you intended for yourself, and what was that breaking point that said, hey, this is who Randal Pinkett is going to be?
My first year of college, where did I see myself 4 years from then? I would have told you I was going to work for a corporation as an engineer. And that's not a bad answer, let's be clear. It's a good answer for a 17-year-old or 18-year-old to say, I want to work for a corporation as an engineer. But it wasn't my calling. And so my sophomore year, a young man who I went to school with, named Wayne Abbott, he started a business selling t-shirts. I'll make this quick. And seeing him selling t-shirts on campus the first week of my sophomore year prompted me to say to myself, if he can do it, why can't I do it? And so I looked back at the candy and the toys and the lemonade and said, why, if I've been doing all these things entrepreneurial, can't I therefore be my own business owner? Having never had anybody in my family who'd done it before, Wayne's example transformed my entire perspective on what I could do and what I could be. And I've never worked for anybody since then. God bless NCCU and this community.
I want to take just a quick second to give you a small token of our appreciation for you coming by and spending some time and imparting some knowledge. We really do appreciate your visit. Thank you all very much for coming. We hope you enjoyed it.
Pleasure to be here at North Carolina Central University, part of the Dean's Global Speaker Series, which is the business of ... Today I came to talk about the business of entrepreneurship and the importance of thinking like an entrepreneur. I believe that entrepreneurship is not just something you do, it's a way that you think. And that to be competitive in the 21st century, you have to think like an entrepreneur. And NCCU is doing an outstanding job of instilling that mindset in its students that they can be competitive in the 21st century. So it was great to be here.